in fairness to the president, His Excellency, right? There's always some bias towards Africa, no question about that. We all know it as blacks, as when you go to CNN, you know, are there situations in Latin America and other places which are worse than what you see here? No, you go to CNN, you go to all this, and all that you see, pictures there, they don't take Accra and our high, you know, whatever, unless we sponsor it. You know, the villages are taking pictures of all those things and whatever. So there's always a bias against Africa. But my point is, yes, up to a point. But in this case, internally, we've been having this conversation. It's not the ratings agencies that say that you are spending all your money, you know, on compensation and interest. It was an internal discussion, which was picked up and factored into the first downgrade. And then we continued and it got worse. So it came in the second downgrade.
So
my main point is that, and the other point I'm making is that, are you going to set up an African institution because you want it to be mediocre? Nobody will give that institution money. Because unless we are able to finance the institution internally by our governments and the rest, right, it will also go to the market, the same advanced country markets to borrow. Just as AfriExim and African Development Bank goes to the markets to borrow. It's not just the money that the member countries give to the, no, they go to the market because they are financial institutions. And the deep pockets in those systems are the same London Stock Exchange and the rest. So I'm saying that if we have our own institutions, an example is Exim Bank, Ghana Exim Bank. The money in EDIF is not enough to support, you know, which we set up. It's not enough, you know, to support our farmers and the rest. But we said that should be seed capital. But then Exim Bank was supposed to go to the markets, just as we do on its own strength. Just as the Ghana Infrastructure Fund was also to be developed and go to the markets on its own strength. Right? Hopefully we can run it better than we did previous, you know, SOEs. But these are market instruments, so they are going to be disciplined by the market. So if they are there, they have to obey those rules because it's global. And it's not just Africa, which is being parts of Latin America. There are middle income and lower middle income and developing income, many middle income countries in those places too are also borrowing. An example is Philippines. Philippines has investment grade. And that's the analogy I was drawing, that when it comes to that, whether it's an African institution or it's a local domestic Ghanaian institution or a country institution, you must play. It's like soccer. Play by the rules. Otherwise, nobody will respect your institution. And by the way, by the time we develop our ratings agencies, it's going to be, what, 10, 15 years? So we better, yes, if they are going to, you know, yeah, before they can get to the level of Fitch and Moody's and the rest. Those are global giants.
Their response is to accuse the ratings agencies of propaganda. And there's also a lot more. Okay, so this is Daily Guide. Moody's ratings biased government. They seem to accept the S&P one, S&P, they said it affirmed their status. There's also Fitch, which they've taken issues with. So
even when they gave us stable, did we see those editorials? Even when, yeah, and when we not using it. You remember they even rate our bonds. And even the last bond that we did, even though at a high whatever, it was stable because we told them we're going to resolve this and that and that. So as I said, I'm not saying that there is no bias, you know, but they're beginning to listen because we are, you know, we have technical people and we are capable of responding. We also responded to some of them. Some that they agree, some that they disagree. And they will issue their reports anyway. But I wouldn't go to those extremes because the yardsticks are there. Your debt is at 85%, right? You said it was below 80. Now it's at 83, 85. You know, if you did the calculation, I'm saying we are going to end 2020 at about 83 because the government came out, you know, yes, the government came out recently, Bank of Ghana, and said that it's 78.7 or so. But that was at the end of November. So what did I do? The Bank of Ghana statement is there. So I just look at the rate at which we borrowed over the last, you know, 10 months up to October and then November. And it started with about 3.5 of GDP, you know, every month, or 4% of GDP every month. So you just strike the average, and the average will give you something around, depending on whether the 40s are higher or whatever, it will give you something around maybe 3.3, simple average. So you around 3.6. So if you add 3.6 of GDP for December, right, to the 78, you are already 80, right? And considering the heavy borrowing because we couldn't go to the market and all that, remember the 2 billion? If you make a little adjustment, it means that we are about 83, which is what Bloomberg was saying. Remember, it was Bloomberg that was attacked first. The my computation shows that based on official reports, and I'm allowed to make estimates. Of course, if the December one comes out eventually, and Bank of Ghana didn't put it out, and the source was Ministry of Finance. So if they bring it out, sure. But I'm convinced that it will definitely be above, the 80. And the professors and others. Recently, you remember we did PFM Tax Africa, and one of the professors picked, Nsafo from Canada, and he was doing some work on it already. And so he used OECD models, he used IMF models, and he said we may reach 95% by 2025 at the rate at which we are going if we don't. And I understand that figure, is out there, 95%. So you see, we have our own people who are doing these computations, either as research to get their PhD, to get this, Yesterday I listened to Dr. Professor, I think it's now Prof. Tiwachempo, on Joy FM.
So they are not telling a new story?
No, because our figures are there. Because we have to make disclosures. And that's why we said in the PFME, the Public Financial Management Act, so let's start putting some of these things out. So that it's not the preserve of some public servant sitting somewhere, minister or whatever. So that if we are going to be out in the market, that's what the middle income countries do. They follow the advanced countries and put some of these figures out. Let me give you one advanced country, example. President Trump, remember he said he was going to do the war? Those of us who listen to stop immigration, right? Yeah. He couldn't do all the war. Why? Because the economy did not move as robustly as he thought. There was Ebola and the rest. He was stopped. Congress didn't give him the money because in their case they have a borrowing limit. So he was able to take some military money to do something in Texas and the rest. They couldn't do it as big as he wanted. And as we speak, President Biden, and again, I'm appealing to those who are listening, is early in some of those places. President Biden is struggling to get his $3 billion to build infrastructure for the U.S. The U.S. was built on infrastructure. Why? Because they have a law that has borrowing limits, and they're saying that, is there politics in it? Of course. Right? But the law is there. And they have a Congressional Budget Office, which is, saying the budget office for Congress, which is advising them. Some say it will lead to the debt going up. Some say it will pay for itself and the rest. Right? So that's the discipline that they practice. So that's why we put a lot of these things. In fact, the sanctions that are in the PFME, we put it there. You remember the PFMA was passed in 2016 or so, and we didn't have to implement it. Then we did the regulations. So we put these things there so we can have transparency. The public debt report, we put it there. Go to Parliament and tell us, ESLA, go take the report to Parliament. So that Parliament is the sovereign people. That is what the advanced countries do to give transparency. So that next time it's not Seth Terkper or the successor to Seth Terkper who is saying it, but for the benefit of our own foot soldiers and the rest, it's there and it becomes, mainstream. Why will it become mainstream? Because Imani will pick it, this one will pick it and whatever, and they will analyze and reduce it. And in fact, the political parties will pick it, yes, and use it against each other. But then the debate will be on.